Hey, it's Adam Lavelle coming back at you with more bare knuckle action, baby. We're talking about bare knuckle boxing 42 from Nashville, Tennessee, the Music City Brawl. That's right. More bare knuckle fighting, more bare knuckle boxing with another glorious company bringing it to us with someone like Mike Goldberg on the mic, on the commentary, the UFC legendary commentary, lending his voice to this company, making it even more legitimate. Now, just like I've told you about the other company I've covered, I'm new to this. I'm just finding my wheels. I'm just starting to understand. I'm still learning names, so please bear with me and forgive me if I make mistakes in pronunciations or what have you. I'm working on it, and those who know me from my past, my professional wrestling past, know that I will get it down, and I will be one of the best guys to count on, one of the most honest guys to count on when it comes to bringing you bare knuckle fighting, bare knuckle boxing, like Bare Knuckle Boxing 42 in Nashville, Tennessee. Talking about the main card here, I think there was only two preliminary bouts, if I remember correctly. I did not take notes on them, so you have to forgive me. I do not have coverage of that. But the next time bare knuckle boxing comes to us, I'll keep better notes, including the prelim fights, which I did watch and I did appreciate. I hope the guy who sprained his knee, twisted his knee, something bad happened to him in the match involving his knee. I hope he gets better. I hope he heals up quick. But let's jump into this incredible main card, kicking off what the commentators called the Battle for Mexico, baby, the Battle for Mexico. Because it was Luis Guerrero taking on Luis Morales. It was the Battle of the Luises as well. But no, these guys came out hot and heavy and only went to round two, though, but that's because they were throwing. That's because fists were flying. That's because they were going at it. This is one of my favorite fights of the night because these two just went at each other, and there's nothing I love more than hot and heavy action, and that's what we had here between Guerrero and Morales. But honestly, Guerrero was solid and technical in this matchup, very technical. I could see the technicality, I could see the skills in what he was doing, but it was Morales who was simply more aggressive and a little bit faster, I think. And in bare knuckle fighting, boxing, you have got to be aggressive. And that will often win you the fight. Yes, sometimes it can cause you to slip up and get caught with somebody, retaliating from one of your shots that you missed. But if you can land your shots and you can be quick and you can be aggressive, you are going to be successful in this game, brother. And Luis Guerrero knocked out Luis Morales and won the Battle for Mexico, won the Battle for Luises in the opening contest. Next, we had an incredible fight. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Jerome Hatch and Cody East could step up their game in one way, and that's in their conditioning. But they're big guys, big guys, 220 pounds, 225 pounds. Being 218 myself, I understand. Cardio, they're probably in better shape than me, I'm sure. But cardio sometimes is a little bit more difficult for these heavyweights, for these larger men. One guy's only 5'11", 220 pounds is Hatch. I'm only 5'8", 218. So again, I'm not comparing any of these guys to myself except in weight and size generally. And we got Cody East, cowboy hat. I am partial to cowboys, brother. I don't know. The cowboy things just always won me over, but it did not win Cody East over. He goes down in the fourth round from doctor stoppage. These guys were literally, no hyperbole here, folks. These guys were covered in blood, their own and their opponent's blood, from the tip of their bald heads all the way down their bodies, as they just punished each other unrelentlessly for 4 rounds. Now, keep in mind, bare knuckle boxing rounds are 3 minutes, not 2. 3 minutes. So these guys went 12 minutes of unrelenting punishment on each other. So, of course, they were gassed at around 2, honestly. It didn't take away from the fight. I mean, it took away from some of the action as they clinched a little bit more. They literally leaned on each other. I felt like one of them could have fallen a couple times, but they actually were leaning on each other to maintain their stability. I really do. But man, They were just pounding the living hell out of one another, even when they were gassed. They finally got a rest in between rounds, and they came out a little more jazzed up, a little bit more raring to fight, and they took that opportunity. They took that time to bludgeon each other with their knuckles, their bare damn knuckles, in the biggest bloodbath I may have ever seen in my newly won fandom of bare knuckle boxing. But again, it was Jerome Hatch with the win by doctor stoppage. East did not want it to stop, but he was too busted up. His one eye was almost completely closed. Doctors are not going to let a fighter blind himself. They're not going to let a fighter get hurt because he can't see. And that makes perfect sense. Sometimes it's a bummer when a doctor stops it, but they have to look out for these guys' future, right? They can't let them get utterly destroyed because they can only see out of one eye. That would be ridiculous. Big win for Jerome Hatch. And then we had the Emperor. Cool nickname, right? The Emperor. Here comes Marco Martinjak. I don't know. Martinjak. Martinjak. I've heard it in the broadcast, but it's already slipped my mind, even though I just watched it. Marco Martinjak took on Maurice Morris in a very solid matchup, which we saw multiple knockdowns in the first round. Martinjak is the real deal. He wins it in that first round simply because he knocked Maurice Morris down numerous times. And the ref finally is just like, nah, this is over. Yeah, it was sort of a blowout. It was sort of a no contest, if you will. But Maurice Morris has power. He has a great look. He comes out like he just came out of the African rainforest or something, looking like he's ready to take somebody's head and shrink it down, carry it around with him. But wasn't quite enough for the Emperor, who gets the big win in the very first round. And like I've said before, sometimes the first round knockouts can be a little disappointing, but sometimes they can be exciting because you can't wait to see where else this guy goes after this. And that was the case here. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say Morris. I think Morris has a shot. I think he has a solid future even after this whoop ass he took. Big can of it, But the Emperor, do it. He just continues to win. Then we had the former heavyweight champion, Isaac Villanueva. I'll get these names, guys, I promise. Villanueva taking on Eric Olson. The theme was the same here. Multiple knockdowns in the first round from body shots. My friend and colleague Chuck Ransford, we used to be commentators for numerous wrestling companies. You can find us on RF Video and other popular pro wrestling sites on multiple DVDs, multiple shows from Harrisburg, Lancaster, Maryland, what have you. You'll hear us on commentary. He said to me, he likes a good body shot. He thinks a lot of these guys spend too much time headhunting, and Chuck's professional opinion, his words, saying as he sits on the couch eating Doritos and drinking Mountain Dew. But that's fine. That was his opinion. But here, some body shot works here by Villanueva, taking down Eric Olson rather easily. He really gave him several shots in the body. Eric Olson also just recently recovered from shoulder surgery. I don't think that was the reason he lost, although I do feel I need to throw it out there. But Villanueva saying he is back. He's coming back for the title that he lost, and this was just the first step. Is that true? Or was Olson too much of a easy victim here? I don't know. Because like I said, I'm new to this. I don't know anything about either man, to tell you the God's honest truth. But I enjoyed this fight for the short time that it lasted, and I'm really curious to see if Isaac Villanueva is working his way back to that heavyweight championship. Up next were the women. Jamie Driver took on Helen Peralta in a good match. It went all 5 rounds. I think some people will complain about it because it wasn't super action-packed. What Jamie Driver did is she used scientific boxing. She really worked this match as a boxer. Now, that's, this is bare knuckle boxing, so of course. But, a lot of times, the guys, the ladies who go in there just throwing haymakers and, not just being stupid like a drunken bar fight, but they go in there headhunting. They go in there looking to get a big win. They go in there to cause a lot of excitement. And Jamie Driver instead wasn't worried about pleasing the fans, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. She was worried about getting a victory over a very tough opponent in Helen Peralta, who was, I believe, probably the stronger, more powerful fighter, but Jamie was the taller fighter, had more reach, and she used that to keep Peralta at bay. There was a quick flurry between the both of them at the very beginning of the first round, and after that, it became a much slower-paced, pick your shots boxing match. That's what this was. And since Peralta yielded and allowed that to be just a straight up regular boxing match, the more experienced boxer won it, giving Peralta her first loss. Jamie Driver gets the big unanimous decision at the end of round 5 of a solid fight. Next up, we had Javon Wright defending his welterweight title against Carlos Guerrera. It was another sort of slow-paced fight because Guerrera kept clinching. Nothing wrong with clinching, folks. It's part of the sport. That's the way it goes. But when you feel like a fighter is purposely doing it to avoid damage, I don't think Carlos Guerrera was doing this as a rest maneuver, as a way to get his wind back. Not at all. He seemed in solid shape. He was doing it as a strategy to keep him being punched. You know, and a little bit to Javon Wright's, not his credit, but to knock him, to give him one critical point, is that I don't feel like he fought inside that clinch as much as he could have. There wasn't enough dirty boxing going on here. So you're going to hear the crowd booing in this match several times. They weren't happy with this. Boxing, especially bare-knuckle boxing fans, want to see more action. And I'm not going to really insult this match except for Carlos Guerrero. Why? Because when the referee has to warn you to stop clinching so much, to tell him to stop the hugging, that's pretty bad. You know you're overdoing it when the ref gets on you for doing it. You just don't see that very much because typically when it happens, the fighter will be active in the clinch, and Guerrero wasn't, and honestly, Wright wasn't either. When they were separated, Wright was the better fighter. Wright got more shots in, but again, Guerrero would clinch him to stop those shots that he was getting. As the commentary team said, there was no super shots in this fight. No one. Neither fighter landed a serious blow. Not a serious, like, whoa, wobbled him, knocked him down. Definitely, obviously, didn't knock him out. But there was no shot in this fight. There were some good shots. Shots that I definitely would never want to take in a million years. Don't want to mess this up. But nothing wowing. Nothing that made me bounce out of my seat a little bit like I'm on a roller coaster. Be like, damn! None of those. But Javon Wright retained his welterweight title, I think with ease, because he sort of just picked Carlos Guerrera apart, who had some offense, don't get me wrong, but not enough, and way too much defensive clinching here. But the welterweight champion retains. And finally, it was the main event. And boy, this was quick. Laurent T. Nelson. They are saying pound for pound one of the best bare knuckle fighters in the world. He has 2 titles. He's the middleweight champion and the super middleweight champion. Now, I got to claim my ignorance here. What the hell is the difference between a middleweight and a super middleweight? Someone's going to have to fill me in on there. I'll be on Reddit or somewhere asking that question. But hey, you got to give him his due. He has 2 of those police diamond belts, which I love. I love the belts in bare knuckle boxing, the tradition of them, the look of them. They are sweet. I'll probably post a picture up here. I'm just going to see you in the pictures of the fight. You'll see them holding them over their shoulders. They're just beautiful belts, and they have a lot of tradition behind them. But he was taking on Sam Liera, who's an older gentleman, not like he's super old, but, you know, he's been around a while, and he wanted to see if he had one good fight left in him, and if he did, he'd probably keep fighting. But he did not. He gets knocked out within the first minute or so, first minute and a half. This was super fast. Nelson looked like the superpower that he is, and Laurent could not hang with him even a little bit. And I don't mean to insult the veteran. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. A little disappointing. Didn't ruin the show or the fight for me at all, because sometimes quick knockouts are fun, and this was a little bit of fun. They're always a little bit of fun. Sometimes they're amazing fun, but sometimes you want to see the guy contend a little bit, you know, go a round or 2, but no, it wasn't to be. This was over before you knew it, before I finished chewing my handful of barbecued corn chips. This bout was at its end. And Nelson's talking about going after a 3rd championship, like 155 or something like that. Or they'd have to drop weight because he's 162, 145. I forget. Forgive me. I forget. But he's talking about going after a 3rd belt. And if he did that, whew. He also dared anybody to come into the company, someone who's already there, someone who wants to come in, to prove that he's not the best pound for pound bare knuckle fighter in the world. He says, no one can beat me, come prove otherwise, anybody that wants to. So there's an open challenge, which I absolutely loved. That's the end of this show already, folks. I feel like I flew through it pretty quickly, less than 15 minutes. I gave the rating of this show on my social media. I'll give it here again. It's a 9 out of 10. Really enjoyed this. I'm only shaving that 1 point off for Carlos Guerrera's constant hugging when you have to be warned by the ref again to stop clinching so much. It's kind of ridiculous. So thanks to old Carlos, I'm going to shave that point off. But 9 out of 10, still tremendous, just as this company is. I really appreciate these companies. They're giving me something that I really love and something that's gotten me away from pro wrestling. And I'm not here to insult pro wrestling, but it just isn't for me anymore. But I hung around because I didn't know what else there was to fulfill my need for sports combat, because the other stuff kind of bores me to death. And pro wrestling puts some, pizzazz on their worked fighting. But let me tell you, real is a lot better than fake. So thank you to the bare knuckle fighters around the world for giving me this new passion. And I'll be back to share more about it as we go on. I might get some fighter interviews. You never know. So please subscribe to the channel. Help me support these companies and get the word out there that if you love sports combat, if you love any type or kind of fighting, then you need and should be watching this stuff. There's just no doubt about it. And if you like it half as much as I do, it'll light up your life, baby. I'm Adam Lavelle, and I'll be back with more bare knuckle badassery before you know it.